Live on YouTube now. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so I think anything is working. Check on the camera. Anything is charged. So I think we're live. So, welcome YouTube, welcome Instagram. Once again, if you're watching this from Instagram, let me just type it in real quick because I want everybody to join me on YouTube. Live on YouTube right now. My link, the link is in the bio. Link in bio. You can have much better sound quality, much better picture quality as well. So if you want to join me on that format, check out the link in my bio. Pin that comment so you can find it anytime you want. Boom. So how is everybody doing? And of course, we're gonna start as every day for 27 days straight now. Can you believe it? Wow, 27 days on Instagram Live. And this is also already my 4th time live on YouTube as well. So here we go. Boom.
It's Benny's Livestream. Broadcasting live every night, 9 p.m. Central European Time.
Every night, 9 p.m. for 27 days straight. Wow. And it's been so much fun to just improve this setting and this whole live stream thing every time we did a new one. So I started with only Instagram Live. Now we're live on YouTube every night. That's so cool, right? It's been so much fun to develop all of this, and the process has been just amazing. So I've been enjoying it as much as possible, and I want to thank you once again for joining me like almost every night. Doing just what we love to do, doing music, although we're facing these very awkward times right now. I want to thank you for that, and I truly appreciate that kind of support. Cool. Okay, so today we're gonna do something very cool, and I can't wait to start, but I wanna play around a little bit just for you, okay? Just to get warm here in this place. It's starting to get warm in here. How's everybody doing? Once again, if you're watching this from Instagram, check out the link in my bio. You can watch me live on YouTube at this second, and we're gonna do some fun stuff with great recorded drums from my buddy Felix Lehrmann, and we're gonna jump into the drum part of our video, Purple Rain. Wow, is that cool? Yeah, it's really cool. Martin just was so kind enough to send me the files, and I wanted to take this opportunity to dive into the drums and make them as fat and slamming as possible, and also maybe to record some bass on it if we still have time. If you want to check it out, go to YouTube right now. You'll find it on my Instagram bio, or you can go to straight to my YouTube channel. It's BENNI JUD Bass. You know where to find me. Okay, so let me get rid of my bass real quick. All right, so I think there's nothing left to say, but let's go into the DAW and check out these fabulously recorded drums from my buddy and partner in crime, Felix Lehrmann. Enjoy. And here we are in the DAW. Need to get my cable straight here. Boom. Here we are in the DAW. So cool. Let me play you a bit of this recorded drum set. Great recorded drum set, right? So that's how it came out of the recording, and I just loaded it in, so we're basically starting from scratch right here. And I want to walk you through the process of just starting out with a drum set and a drum sound, and we want to figure out how to improve and how to start building a drum sound in a recording. So first of all, this is like not as many tracks as I'm used to for a drum set, but still a fair amount of tracks. So we got a kick in, we got a kick out, we got a snare top, snare bottom, 3 toms overall, hi-hat track, overheads, and then we have a New York position dynamic microphone. So this is like the only special mic. We don't have any room mics. We don't have any like crazy chambers going on. We don't have any like, I don't know, like special whatever going on. I've had all kinds of stuff, like people recording through a tube, or all kinds of stuff for the drum set. Maybe like 2-meter position, like mono overhead, like all kinds of crazy snare alternatives, alternative mics to use. But this is like very, very straightforward drum recording. So first of all, what I do if I get tracks like this, I take a deeper look in there. Yes, I do read the chat, but I'm trying to focus here. You don't deserve to die young, only the greats die young. Yeah, BoJack Horseman. Yeah, I know that. I know BoJack Horseman. I didn't watch the whole season, but I started out and I thought it was kind of stupid. So I do read the chat, and welcome everybody. Hi JRV, hi Jenny, hi Brian, hi Jan, hi RGT, hi Vike. So hi everybody. Hi Jeremy, great to see you again. Cool. All right, so let me take a good sip of espresso. Cheers. Pretty good. We just descaled our machine, so the espresso actually tastes a lot better now than it did like 2 weeks ago. Okay, so first thing I do when I get drums like this, I dive into the tracks, and I usually look for a very strong and clear snare hit, which maybe this one. Yeah, that's pretty good. Why do I do that? I dive into that and I zoom in. So, thing is, we want to treat the drum set as one large recorded instrument, right? So, but this large recorded instrument has been recorded with multiple microphones, so we need to check our phase. Phase is something that is very underestimated, and I gotta admit, I got this information from the wonderful Warren Hewitt from Produce Like a Pro. Check out his stuff on YouTube. He's just phenomenal about producing and mixing all kinds of stuff, also recording. And so if you really want to check it out in depth, I learned this from his recording academy, and this is just such an amazing piece of advice that I want to share with you here. So as you can see right here, let me zoom in a little bit so we can see those waveforms even bigger now. We got some waveforms here, and we wanna put them into phase, which means we got negative and we got positive waves going on, and we want to put anything in phase to the snare. So the snare is our reference point, and we want to start with like the very first snare hit that I see here. So the very first snare waveform starts right here, so at this point. And what I'm gonna do is I adjust the starting point of this snare hit because I see it everywhere. And I put in the snare track a little later, so it's not perfectly in position right now as it was recorded. So we needed to do this anyway. Okay, let's try. So as you can see, there's a little discrepancy between the top snare mic and the bottom snare mic, but this is like a very, very small amount. It's not even one sample. So we just drag it up, boom, and here we go. Same thing we do with the kick. So as I said, I loaded the snare track a little later. That's why the snare is before the kick drum. Usually the snare bleed here in the kick drum mic is a little later because you can obviously imagine it. The kick drum mic is farther away than the snare top mic from the snare. So for obvious reasons, this is like the first hit right here, and usually like the kick microphone takes up the snare a little later. So once we got this, and then I try to find like an average right here. I see there is something going on. This is a little weird right here. So I want to put that into a phase relation to this. So what I do now is I compare all the phase that's going on in the following hit of this snare bleed. And so all the waveforms are now in a good length, and you cannot do this perfectly because physics are a bitch sometimes, and you can just like do that with a good amount of average. So if we have a great starting point, we usually end up with a good comparison between phase of multiple microphones. But if you compare it like very in milliseconds, it's never gonna be very like 100% in phase. But that's all right. We just want to make sure that the smack, like the initial transient, has a good amount of good phase relation, so we can get out as much bass as possible of the instrument. So okay, I put this kick to the snare bottom. So here we go, tom, boom, boom, tom 3, boom, hi-hat microphone, boom, overheads. So this is like a usual thing, and once again, this was quite unusual. Like we saw the snare bleed in the tom mics before the hit of the snare. This is quite unusual, but that happened because I loaded in the snare afterwards and it wasn't in the right position. So usually the tom mics are farther away from the top snare mic. So obviously the sound needs a little longer to travel towards the toms, so there's like a short latency between the initial hit and the bleed it is picked up by the tom mics. So this however is very, very usual. Like we have a latency between the snare hit right here, our reference point, to the overheads. So here you can actually see the snare smack, and we want to pull that in phase, so we get a lot of bass from that. And once again, we got the New York position. We do the very same thing. Boom. And I can see that this phase relation right now is pretty good regarding the length of the waves. But as you can see, some are negative on this reference point. Most of them are. This one's positive. Snare top is negative. This is kind of negative. If we zoom in a little more, we can see the negative. And this is positive. So what we do, and you can do that multiple ways. I like to do it with the Logic gain plugin. Oh, why is this a stereo track anyway? So once again, gain plugin right here. And there's a button called phase invert. This basically means that everything that is positive becomes negative, and everything that's negative becomes positive. So the phase got flipped. You can do that as well with this editor right here. And I got a shortcut for this, which means like, are you really sure you want to invert the phase? Yes, I do. So boom. And here we go. The phase is flipped. And now we got a nice phase relation between the kick out and kick in regarding this snare bleed. So we want to make sure that the phase that we get from the snare top microphone, our reference point, is clear throughout the rest of our set. Boom. So let's check. Snare bottom, also positive, where the snare top mic is negative. So we need to flip this as well. Boom. Done. Once again, toms are good. Toms are good. It's all negative. That's good. Okay, cool. So now we should have like a very slamming fat drum sound. Boom. I can tell there's a lot more low end going on. I'm not really sure about the... Oh, okay. So, although we needed to flip the phase on the kick-in mic, I can see that this wasn't a really good idea because if we check the relation in phase between the microphones when actually like the kick is hitting, so we need to make sure that this is in phase as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip this phase again. So now we got a good phase relation between the hits. Since the snare bleed is not as bad on the kick drum, that won't affect the actual sound of the snare too much. So we want to make sure that every multi-mic'd signal has as much of a clean phase relation going on. So let's check it out. Yep. That's a lot more focused. Yep. This is a lot more focused right now. So if we regard it, let me undo this real quick so we can compare it. A little longer. Okay, so check out, I flipped the phase of the kick in. Oops. And with phase flipped. So as you can tell, it felt when I flipped the phase back, so the relation between kick in and kick out was not in the right position. It felt kind of loose. So I don't know, like the tone wasn't really defined. It almost like felt like it don't had like a root note to it. So every kick drum usually has like a root note to it. So that's why tuning is so important when if you record a drum set. So I can work with that, I guess. It's a lot more punchy. I guess physics work that way. Yeah, JRV. I think the overall relation between the phase of the multiple microphones just improved. And since we don't have this much bleed on a kick drum, I think it's more important to focus on the main instrument of that mic, that's the main sound that is picked up with that microphones, these microphones. Okay, so let's dive in a little deeper. So now that we got the phase cleared up, and this almost sound like a very good drum sound, right? So let's just rebalance this drum set real quick, and we start with -5 kick in. So also get the panning right here. And I also, Felix is a left-handed drummer, so audience perspective, what I always do is the other way around. So my tom 1, my rec tom 1 would be here, second tom would be here, and my third tom, I usually pan all the way to the left, but in this case to the right. Hi-hats are left, overheads are right. Okay. Get to a part where the toms are playing. One more time, this fill just to get the toms right. Okay, couldn't hear the floor tom, so let's get to this one. So Felix is one of the drummers that actually plays the toms quite loud when recording, when he's recording. Oh yeah, you should definitely spend some time with that, JRV. It's very important because you save a lot of time, dial in some effects and some EQ to get this low end at the end. So you can save yourself some time with that. In the end, it won't take as much time as you think once you get used to this procedure. Okay, so I think the toms are right now. And as I said, Felix is one of those drummers that actually plays the toms quite loud, so which is a good thing. What is a good thing? Because we usually end up need to shape the transient of the recorded drums a little more, because usually if you play live in a room, the toms are very massive. The toms are very massive, so that's why drummers tend to play it a little softer than they actually need to be in terms of getting the best sound out of them. So that's why drummers usually always roll their eyes if you ask them to play a little softer. Because they want this smacking tom sound, right? And we want that too. So I truly appreciate that recording experience of Felix right here, to play the toms louder than he would play in a live situation, probably. But yeah, anyway, I mean, he's a generally louder drummer without being very intransparent, if that makes sense. So his sound is still very transparent, as although he's playing very loud, and like even if he's playing a lot, you can easily identify all the elements going on, which is a massive talent that I appreciate very much in playing with him, and especially in having his recording on my desk right now. Okay, so let me get into groove with hi-hat. Oh, this microphone is so good. Let me go to a loud part for setting the overheads right. Here we go, some magic. All right. So that sounds pretty good to me. Overheads are a little tricky to me because I tend to overdo it with overheads because I like the three-dimensional feeling of overheads. But it can get really annoying if you got like a cymbal that's playing all the way through. So sometimes I just automate that if I want that kind of sound for the verses or like a, I don't know, like a lower section. But having him playing full set at the end of this song, I think it's really easy to overdo it with the overheads. So probably I will draw in some automation right here, because other than that, you can really get too harsh in like the 2K to 5K area. So I want to avoid this by setting the overheads a little lower than I probably would at the moment. Okay, cool. So that sounds pretty good to me. Let's get through the individual signals real quick, just to get you an idea of what's going on. Let's kick in. I think it was in, I don't know, Beta 91, probably. Beta 92, I don't know. Kick out. That was a U67, I guess. Or U49, I'm not sure. Near top. Must have been a biodynamic. Near bottom. I don't know. Probably SM57. Toms. Can't remember either. I know the low tom, the floor tom was a D6, I guess, an Audix. One of my favorite microphones in the whole world. I gotta admit. Overheads. Let's first hi-hat. Hi-hat was an SM81, I guess. And for the overheads, the recording engineer, Torsten, chose, I think, two Panteras from Browner, I guess. I'm not sure. I think it were two Panteras. I'm not sure. But he used some large diaphragm, some high quality large diaphragms for the overheads. New York position, and for those of you who don't know the New York position, it's okay. Let me turn the camera for this real quick. So imagine this is the kick drum. There you got the toms hanging right above, and there's like the snare, a hi-hat right here, and the floor. So the New York position is right in between kick, the toms right here, the snare would be right here, hi-hat, tom right here. So what we try to do is we try to have like the same distance to each individual source. Like we go the same distance from this microphone to the top of the kick, top of the floor tom, top of the kick, so down here, top to rec tom 1, top to rec tom 1, 2, and to snare. So this way you get a lot of smack out of like each and every instrument in the drum set. So there's a lot of transient energy in this microphone, which you can tell if you listen to that. It's solo. Here you go. So there's a lot of transient going on. Of course, snare is very loud, but like each instrument in the drum set is very, very articulated, and we usually only use that for transient energy or like a whole bunch of distortion. I don't know yet. We will see. Okay, so I think that's a really cool basic drum sound. At the moment, this is running through my mastering chain, so I already got on a SSL type of compressor and an SSL stereo EQ, which is actually boosting some low end and some top end. Getting rid of some around 350-ish on a like a very narrow band. A bandwidth. And also getting rid of some of the 1K area, like the telephone kind of frequencies. So yeah, that's like the main processing going on. This is like my mix bus chain that I use on every mix. So I just don't end up doing as much to the individual sources when I mix into that. So once again, this is my mastering chain. Again, a little bit of like sub low end boost. Probably I would go a little up for this, just to give it some more energy down there. I could tell that from just listening to the drums. Also another like broad 12K high shelf with this Pultec. Then next in chain, I got this from Andrew Sheps. I just used this Puig Child, like a Fairchild emulation, for coloring, and I like the harmonic distortion of that unit, so I just put that after my Pultec style EQ, but I don't do any compression at all. I just use it for the harmonics that it's creating. Once again, harmonic distortion. This is like my favorite to achieve loudness and to achieve like a dense kind of feel without really making it denser. So Sonox Oxford Inflator is perfect for this, and I got it on a very gentle setting here. If I want to be a little more aggressive, that will develop throughout the song, depending on the other instruments as well and the density of the arrangement. And last but not least, my trusty Dr. MS from Matthew Lane. It's definitely worth to check out this plugin. I only use it for a little stereo widening at the moment, but you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can pull in some mix manipulation. For example, you can put some side information in down to the middle. You can also put some middle information out to the sides. You can adjust like the relation between mids and side. That's very, very cool, and you can set some delays, all kinds of stuff. You can easily destroy your mix, but you can also make it very, very cool with just a bunch of settings here. So I love this plugin. It has a lot of opportunities, so be aware of that. it will take time to dig into that. And also I got a limiter at the end, so that I usually set around I don't know, like wherever I need to not get as much gain reduction as I think I need, depending on the loudness that I want to achieve. But I usually aim for -14 to -12 LUFS at the moment. There were times where I attempt to do it, mix it a little louder, because the loudness war was so much more present than it is right now. But yeah, at the moment I like to mix into a limiter because it just adds some sound to it, and yeah, I just like it. I like the sound of the L2, so that's the reason why I chose this one. Okay, cool. So let me, yep, it's enabled. So, and when I look up to my analog compressor, the SSL style, it's doing just like, I don't know, the needle is barely moving right now. It's more about like, I don't know, maybe a dB or maybe 1.5 dB max, that is triggered from this drum set right now. Also, depending on how much low end I'm gonna boost in the drum set, it will probably be triggered a little more. But if that happens, I just pull down the drum group or my trim button, my trim fader right here. So I usually leave this around at -3. So okay, cool. Let's get into some more stuff. First of all, we got 2 individual sources for kick, and I don't like that. I don't like that. I like easygoing drum mixing. So same applies for the snare. Same applies for toms. So I assign those to more buses. Okay, so here's what I did. I just created some more buses that I make some tracks out of. And here's what I'm gonna do. I call this kick. I call this snare. I call this toms. I call this cymbals. And I call this special. Why do I do that? Because I don't want to mix too many tracks. Put that down here. And also I want to treat all of these individual sources as one piece. So boom. And I'm also gonna send these buses to my drum bus. So now we're back on track, right? That makes it very easy for me to just solo and mute some pieces off the drum kit. So for example, let me play this section. So within one button, why did this not work? That's very weird. Oh, okay. So I screwed up. I screwed up my routing. I mean, the naming. That was show effect. Okay, here we go. Now it's right. So this way I can easily solo like an individual source, because the whole point of having multiple microphones recording one source is to treat them as one source, right? So I wanna treat those two kick mics as one large kick mic. I wanna treat those 2 snare mics as one snare mic. I wanna treat all the toms as one large tom. Although I might jump in the individual sources and treat them if they have any problems. So yeah, but I'm a top to bottom guy, so this is a lot easier for me to overview and a lot easier for me to mix. Okay, so what do I mean with top to bottom? I start with the large frame, so let's get my let's start with the drum group. So we treat the drum set as one individual. What do I mean by that? I first of all usually start with a channel strip because I like the idea of having all my individual sources go to a channel strip, so I can work as I was in front of a large SSL console, right? And also I like the sound of the SSL consoles. That's why I chose this plugin. Okay, so boom. Just enabled the SSL on the drum bus. So just that did something to the signal, right? Back and forth. Without. With. So just that had a harmonic effect to me. So it almost felt a little excited. So I really like that. So now I want to treat this drum as one individual source. So I enable a little bit of the EQ section. I probably won't use the compressor here on this unit. I want to set a different compressor for that. So let me get my API to 500 because I like that much more on drums, especially if they're live recorded. Sometimes I go for the 33609 by Neve. Depending on the sound of the drums, if I need it a little more aggressive, I probably will go for something with more colors. Just like a, I don't know, like a Puig Child, like a Fairchild, or I don't know, like an SSL kind of compressor. But usually I go with this one. I go with the 2500. I really like it on drums, but we're going to compare it in a second. Let's first start with EQing this drum set. So all the compressors are disabled, so we just focus on the EQ. I'm going to go to a louder part for that. So in this area, the drums sounded a little, I don't know, a little small to me. Almost like there was some paper wall that was just built up in front of the microphone. So I just wanted to put those out a little bit. I like that area because the snare sounds very rich. So I wanted to enhance that a little bit. Let's take a look at the bass section. Okay, here's the before and after with and without EQ. With EQ. And without. I can tell there's a lot more low-end energy going on, and I want to control that a little bit. And the overall sound is a lot more transparent to my ear. So it was very subtle, but the subtlety makes a huge difference at the end, and I know that. Okay, dial in the compressor. Go to allow section. I don't want it pumping. Yep, I don't want it pumping, so I keep it very subtle too. Also, I did a independent link, like all these settings are applying individually for left and right, because of course we have like a different kind of energy between the left side and the right side of the drum set. Why is that? Because if we're gonna hit the drums, if we're gonna hit the toms, we're gonna trigger the left side, or in his case, like the right side of the drums a lot harder. So this is gonna trigger the overall stereo compressor, which doesn't make a lot of sense. We only want to trigger the right side of the compressor. So each side is moving individually. So you can do this with this button. You can also make it a high pass. So the overall low frequencies don't trigger the compressor too much, which I'm gonna do a little bit. So I only gonna do up to 50 hertz. No, it doesn't work with hertz here. Okay, it got a set high pass that I can dial in. So I guess we just take a listen. No, I like the setting with without the high pass a lot more, because it glues together the individual sources a lot better in my ear. Okay, so boom, that's a cool drum sound. I want to take off a little bit of the transients, so I use that usually with a Slate digital virtual tape machine. Sometimes I use the UAD version of a tape machine, like the Studer or the Ampex, but I really like the sound of the virtual tape machine as well. And it's like I don't know, you put it on everything and it just sounds great at the end. So I enjoy that kind of easy going flow to a plugin. So go to allow section. Without. With. It just gave it some top end, which I really like, and it's not harsh, and also like the transients of the snare are a lot more controlled. So it just appears to be a little more mixed, which is a good thing. Okay, cool. So now I can dig into the individual sources a bit. So let's listen to the drums and try to figure out. Let's try to figure out what we're actually aiming for, because mixing has a lot to do with imagination of a done sound, right? So we need to imagine the mixed sound already, and I want to take a second to do that. Let's do a before and after with my processing so far. Let's get rid of the other compressors. We do that another time. Okay, so with the processing and without. Subtle goes a long way, right? Once again, without processing and with processing. And regarding the fact that this is a live recording, this already sounds very cool to me. Now would be the time when I dug into like the other instruments as well and just check where like the conflicts are, because for now this sounds like a very natural, nice drum set, other than missing a kind of room, right? It kind of misses a room and the feel of a three-dimensional appearance, right? So usually we get some room tracks as well. But this is what I have right here set up. So these are my drum effects. And I wanna put something in right here called the Ocean Way Studio plugin from UAD, which I absolutely love. It's such a phenomenal plugin. Ever since I got it for the first time, I was in love with this one. And I put it on so many sources. I use it for acoustic guitar almost all the time. I use it for vocals. I use it for basically everything that I want to create a room with. So I got it on a 100% wet setting. And what I want to do is I want to treat this as if it was recorded. So I create a track and I just put it right here to my other sources, which by the way I'm now gonna put in a different order, so I only focus on these guys right here. And so I just want to make sure this is a virtual room just so I don't forget it, because I tend to forget that this is a plugin sound. Usually this sounds so real that that I forget to think about that as a virtual room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send these guys, post fader, to the drum room. Oh, okay. Instagram just went off. Thank you for watching, whoever watched Instagram. So, and now we're just the 9 of us. Yay! Let me play something. Hey, now we have a party here. Got some cool sounds here, so I can put them in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's such a cool program. I really like it. Such a cool piece of software. Okay, so now I sent all these guys to my virtual drum room. Let's hear the drum room solo. So good, right? Sounds like an actual room. And you can play around with this plugin like crazy. Can play with the distance. Now we got an even bigger room. It's so musical. I love it. We can play around with the EQ a little bit. Probably will filter out a little bit of the low end. Because the energy is really strong here. But yeah, this sounds so real. I love it. Did I say I love it? I think I really love it. Okay, so let's blend this guy into our existing sound. So now we can play around with the pre-delay a little bit. Let's go extreme. It's so good. Find a setting that we like. I really, really dig this sound. We can even go a little extremer with this. I love it. So here we can choose like different interior. Different position in the room. I like the setting we had. You can even go like through a bunch of microphones right here. So let's take this one. I think I like the C12. Yes, that feels really, really good to me, especially in this kind of context. So you can play around with this plugin probably forever. So let's check our processing so far. We started with this. And we ended with this. Almost sounds mixed, right? But we can go even better. Whew. So good. So good. Okay, so let's listen to it one more time and think about our next step. Okay, I wanna give this snare. The snare is one of the most important instruments in the whole drum set. Probably the most instrument in the drum set. So let's work with the snare real quick. So I take my snare bus right here. Now we can identify what's going on in the snare track. Okay, so I kind of like the snare sound, so I just want to put something on top of that. So I love this following thing a lot. Beginning of the song, so I don't mess around with that. I love this plugin a lot. It's from Slate as well. It's called Trigger. Oops, I want it in stereo. And this is like the best drum replacer that I know. You can load in a lot of samples. You can do all kinds of craziness with it. And it's very detailed and very fast, very sensitive, and you can blend it in like perfectly. So this is my sample track, and I'm gonna choose a sample that has a rich bottom end and like I'm looking for a silky kind of top end with a lot of attack. Because the snare as is sounds very, very, very rich already. So we have a very, very good snare sound, but I want to smack it a little more. And not to destroy the snare sound, I just layer it with a trigger sample, because that keeps a lot of the energy of the original source. So let me see. Maybe we go with something. Really, what I'm looking for? Solo. Okay, I think that's not what I'm looking for. Still haven't found what I'm looking for. Go to a loud snare hit. A little too harsh to me. That. Wow, that's even more. Always need to hear it in total. Yeah, I kind of like that. A little room to have some length. Okay, I think that works for this purpose. Okay, so here's the snare without the trigger. And with. Just gives it some length, some attack, some smack, some three-dimensional impression. I just love it. Let's hear it in total. I think that's perfect. That sounds cool to me. Okay, same thing I will do with the kick. So let me find a kick, and let's first identify what I'm missing in the kick.